This is another story that takes place up north in Michigan, but it happened to my dad. At least he swears it did. My dad and his buddy were staying a weekend up at the cabin, and they were having a fire near the front of the driveway by the smaller cabin. They were drinking beers and telling stories, catching up and whatnot. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, in between the crackling of the fire and his buddy telling a story, they heard a woman cry out, "Help me!" Thinking they were just really buzzed, they paid it no mind and continued their conversation. Then it happened again. "Help me! Please help me!" My dad and his friend looked at each other shocked. "I definitely heard it that time, dude. What do we do?" My dad reached for the flashlight and clicked it on. "Help me, please!" The woman cried again. My dad shined the flashlight around the woods, trying to locate the woman. "If you can see us, come towards the light! Come towards us!" My dad and his buddy shouted as the flashlight lit up the small patch of woods and cast dancing shadows everywhere. Then all of a sudden, there she is. This skinny, frail-looking woman stumbled out from the shadows. She was covered in blood and her hair was matted. Her dress had been sliced apart. My dad got a sinking feeling in his stomach. "Oh my God, are you okay? What happened? How can we help?" This was before cell phones, so there was no way to phone the police. The woman collapsed, and my father and his buddy hoisted her up around their shoulders, leading her to a bench where she could sit down. She was sobbing uncontrollably as they draped a blanket over her and did the best they could to tend to her wounds. When she was able to gain her composure, she told my dad and his friend the story. Apparently, she was with her boyfriend out in a car in the woods, and he wanted to do things she wasn't ready for. She rejected him, but he tried to force himself on her. He beat her up, slashed her dress, then kicked her out of the car before peeling off. She then started wandering the woods looking for help before stumbling across my dad and his buddy. They cleaned her up a little more and let her crash in the cabin for the night. In the morning, they took her home. She gave them both a hug and kiss on the cheek before disappearing inside. A few days later, they went back to the house to check on the lady from the woods, but her mother answered the door. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" she asked. Yes, ma'am. We dropped off a woman here a few days ago and she was in rough shape. We were just checking in on her." "Oh, you mean my daughter?" "I think so. Can we see a picture?" Her mother went back inside the house and came back with a picture of her daughter. When my dad and his buddy confirmed it was her, the mother gave a little laugh. "Boys, my daughter has been dead for 10 years. If you did see her, it's because it was the anniversary of her death." My dad stood there stunned. "I appreciate yous coming by, though. It's nice to know she's still around." Her mother chuckled as she shut the door, leaving them speechless. They turned around and headed back to the car. My dad always says that wasn't the scary part. What still baffles him and his friend to this day is when they looked back at the house before pulling the car door open, only to be met with a vacant lot with a for sale sign.